that's correct, and we'll archive it for.
Good reminder, Chuck. We paused it because we were talking about you since you came late. We didn't want you to have an archive.
Okay. Fair enough. In any case, we have links to most of what we're going to share with you. We'll be watching a video together that contains sort of a compilation of interviews that Jessica and I conducted with some amazing local teachers from 3 high schools, and we'll tell you more about that in just a minute. So actually, let me start by setting the context for this project. Last spring, shortly after spring break, you folks may remember, most of us didn't return to physical in-person school. Jessica and I were on a Zoom conversation with our friends and colleagues at the Career Technical Education Foundation of Sonoma County, really having a conversation about some of the challenges that we were facing, particularly in CTE classes and in other classes supported in programs coordinated by the CTE Foundation. If you don't know about the CTE Foundation, by the way, I encourage you to look them up. Career Technical Education Foundation of Sonoma County. They support really cool, innovative projects throughout Sonoma County, one of which we'll talk about today. But we heard some real despair from some of the folks on the call, and some feeling like, particularly with relevant, meaningful, hands-on work, it would be really challenging in the context of distance learning. And I think Jessica and I were, to a certain extent, feeling that also. However, we also were making the argument that, hey, there are also maybe some opportunities here. We no longer have, for example, a bell schedule that has been, in many cases, sort of a barrier to curriculum integration and collaboration and meaningful off-campus projects during the day and all kinds of things like that. We no longer had standardized testing that spring. So we had a chunk of time that we weren't going to have otherwise. And so to their great credit, the folks from the CTE Foundation said, oh, really? Okay, well, prove it. And so that sort of began a whirlwind for us of trying to put together a proposal, get it in front of the CTE Foundation board, which I think we had to do within something like 3 days, and then enlist and embark on a sort of a process with teachers, students, and industry partners last spring. So the whole duration of the whole project, start to finish, was something like 6 weeks. And we have a couple teacher participants on the Zoom call today who can hopefully verify and fill you in on some of that. But that's sort of where this project came from. We
Chuck, can I say something about just sort of the related to this project and what the whole session, just sort of to frame people, give them a little context about why we think it's helpful now?
Yes, please.
So real fast, again, I know some of you have been joining us. I've seen Amanda helpfully admitting people from the waiting room. Jessica Pergolsky, Chuck Wade, we work at the County Office of Education, and we're really here to be rabid fans of some teachers that we have on this call with us and showcase the work that they were able to do in the spring. In the words, as Chuck said, of Winston Churchill, to not let a crisis go to waste. Really to say, okay, some things are terrible and really hard and we don't have a lot of answers, but how do we actually take advantage of some of those constraints that are normally there that have been lifted? And so I say all of that because our time together today will be to show off their work, but I want to be really clear that it's not to say that you should replicate their work, although these projects are awesome. But you might find yourself not being a high school teacher, or you might find yourself teaching a discipline that's different than what their discipline is. In the words of our colleagues down at High Tech High, we really want to offer this as inspiration and not replication. So what can you take from what they've done, maybe from the Nueva team from Windsor High School, who you'll get to hear from? It might be about really how they put students in leadership roles to lead work for other students. Or from Healdsburg, it might have been the way that they really thought about really using technology differently, right? So again, you're not necessarily replicating the project, though you could, but really being inspired about, okay, what from those could I take and really intentionally place into my work for next year?
There were 4 things that we focused on that we really wanted to support. Some of these things were sort of already happening in some of the projects, and some of them were enhanced by some partnerships and some work that we did together. The projects have in common radical integration. So the idea was multiple disciplines were involved in the work without doubling up the actual assignments and the work for students. How can we address multiple subjects worth of standards without giving students extra work? That was an important component. We required authentic industry mentorship partnered with each team. In some cases, they worked primarily with teachers, in some cases primarily with students, in some cases with both. But we required some authentic non-educator industry or community input and partnership in the design, implementation, assessment, all aspects of the work. We wanted these projects to address current community issues. There are sort of an unwelcome wealth of genuine issues right now around which we can design student inquiry projects, and these projects definitely addressed those real current needs, as you'll see. The other thing is that we really wanted those, the inquiry problems posed, to be authentic. So in other words, not something that the adult educators or the community partners already know the answer to. These are real problems that students are actually finding novel, original solutions to. Also, we were attuned to remote learning innovations. So learning a little bit about what works and what doesn't under remote learning conditions. Remember that these projects took place last spring when many of us were pretty new to how are we going to make this thing work when our kids aren't physically with us. And that included solving a host of problems that I know many of you are already familiar with. But one of the things that you'll get to do is sort of hear how other educators have addressed that from 3 different high schools in very different contexts in different integrated teams. So we actually have compiled some information from these projects into a website. Teachers and students were interviewed, industry mentors were interviewed, and we put these things together. We also have a video which we're going to watch together in a little bit, but first, we want to give you guys an opportunity in breakout rooms to take a look at the artifacts of these projects and to assess them based on another project that many of you and we have been involved with, which is around the Sonoma County Portrait of a Graduate.
Chuck, can I, as you tee that up, can I make a suggestion that we actually do better this time than what we did last time and give people a little bit of an orientation to the website first? Just because that was a struggle for folks when we first debuted this work of just understanding like what they were looking at, and maybe we can have the teachers who are on the call sort of introduce themselves as we go to the various landing pages, and then we can once they know how to use the website, we can go to POG.
Yeah, good call.
We can improve. We can get better. I promise. We're just.
You guys can see the website right now, Jessica. Can you see it?
Yep, I can. Everybody else, you good?
Great. So here's what it looks like. Makingadifferancefromadistance.org. We affectionately call it MADFAD for short. The landing page has the video that we'll all watch together in a little bit, as well as some sort of general information about the projects, what they have in common, things I just talked about, and a quote from a teacher. At the top right-hand corner are links to the 3 different high school projects. So the first link takes you to the Healdsburg High School Share a Life project. There are images over here on the left that you can scroll through. There's a student quote, and each of the 4 areas that we talked about, there are sort of compiled and edited interview responses about how this particular project went about addressing those 4 areas. There's also a link to more information, I think, for most of these projects. So the Rancho Cotati High School project.
Oh, can we have John introduce himself since we were?
Oh,
yeah.
Is John here?
Yeah, he's here. And I don't think DJ is, right, John? I think you're.
I haven't talked to him. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you folks want to put in presenter mode, you'll see John's face in his tricked out teaching studio, I think.
Hey.
Hey, tell us about yourself.
I'm tired. John Chevalier, media instructor up at Healdsburg High School. And what we've been, for the last several years, we've been working with Healdsburg Senior Living Community, and we've been taking a group of students over and working with Alzheimer's and dementia patients. And the pandemic really created a problem with everything shutting down. So sure we'll get to it, but what we did is a project to connect students with these residents virtually.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you very much. And I know I'm going to jump to the Windsor High School project then, because I know we have a Windsor High School teacher as well. You'll notice this page is structured very much like the Healdsburg High School page. There are pictures over here that you can scroll through and see some of the artifacts of student work. There's actually a student video, which we won't have time to see together, but highly recommend you check out what some of the students say. And then just like the other 2 pages, sort of organized by larger theme, and then some links to the products of the work. Dave, can you say a little bit about the Windsor High School project?
Sure. Ours was one that was sort of just born from our lockdown situation. We deal with kids that are in the AME sector, the arts, media, and entertainment. So we have those classrooms where all those kids that don't fit in anywhere else on campus fit in our classrooms and share artwork and ideas and creative music, whatever. So we were worried about that outlet just being shut down. So I have to give credit to my co-team member, John Richards, who put together this Instagram, this place to house all those things. So kids put videos, artwork, a lot of it's visual art, but there's also a couple students that just took on reviewing movies because they had this time. So it was sort of an outlet for their creativity. And then we as teachers could go onto that Instagram account and comment and like stuff, and it was our way of being part of their life. So we had a new prompt it started out every day, and then we pared it down because there was a little burnout to every week. And then teachers would make videos, so we would have that connection, and we'd get random people to sort of participate. And then we eventually wanted to bring in a partner, so we had someone from the mental health side of the healthcare world kind of help us sort of focus on what the students might need as far as prompts go. And our focus was just high school kids because that's who we taught, and we wanted to broaden that. And so we had 3 of our students take on expanding the project. So they met with the mental health professional, and met with high school and elementary school teachers and administrators and figured out how to make it accessible to a younger audience. And then it just kind of progressed from there. So I also highly recommend the video of our students because we didn't know they were doing this. Chuck just kind of recorded them, with their permission. And it's one of those like proud moments where they just took this project and just went with it, and what they learned about communicating and working collaboratively and all that was probably the biggest value.
Thank you, Dave. Great. Jessica, you are my best timekeeper. Do we have time to do what I thought I was going to do?
You do, Chuck, because we're gonna. I already have the breakout room set up, and yeah, we're good.
Awesome. So here's the plan. We are going to put you into 6 different breakout rooms. Each one will be responsible for one of the outcomes of the Sonoma County Portrait of a Graduate. If you haven't heard about that, we don't have a whole lot of time to tell you about it, but know this. This Portrait of a Graduate was developed in collaboration with folks from all over Sonoma County, many dozens of meetings. More than 1,000 people gave input to identifying the knowledge, skills, and attributes that young people ought to know and be able to do in Sonoma County. And also in thinking about what those things really mean and how would we know if a student had mastered one of these things. One of the sort of areas of curiosity for Jessica and myself and some of our colleagues really was sort of around these outcomes. We thought, okay, well, if we do an authentic, meaningful community project in the context of a pandemic, or something happened, do these outcomes still apply? Do these still seem important to us as a community? And sort of as our way to crowdsource a test around that, we're going to ask each breakout room to take on one of these outcomes and to excavate the website that we just shared with you and look for evidence that students have had an opportunity to develop and or demonstrate the skills, knowledge, or attributes related to the outcome. So in just a moment, you're going to be put into one of 6 breakout rooms. Once you get there, in the chat, you will learn whether you are in empathy or ethics or collaboration.
Chuck, I actually named the breakout rooms what they are.
Wow, so you will know even before you look at the chat. But in the chat, I think there will be a definition that you can use just to make sure you're sort of on the same page. And
yep,
we're going to
I also linked, you can copy and paste that document link right there and you have access to all of them already too.
Awesome. We're going to ask you to take a look at the 3 projects documented in the website to spend a few minutes seeing if you can find evidence for your portrait of a graduate outcome. And then we'll come back, we'll talk about it, we'll watch the film, and we'll debrief with the teachers. Good?
Yes, folks. So you might want to copy and paste that Google Doc link because it will take me a few minutes to get through all of the breakout rooms and repost it. And so if you don't want, wasted time, go ahead and take a copy of that link, and then I'll excerpt just the one specific to your room. But it will take me a few minutes to get through all the rooms.
The link to the website is what I think we're missing now.
Good, thank you.
Yep, we can put that. That actually.
Thank you. I think that was Renee. I didn't see who said it, but I think I know her voice.
So let's see if I can get it in there. Oops.
You need me to do it, Chuck?
Got it.
Okay. So again, just to be super clear, you're going to visit, thanks to whoever suggested, I think Renee, you now have the link from Chuck to the website. You're going to go to that website. So you can even click on that now. It'll open up a new tab for you. And then you are going to be in a breakout room based on one portrait of a graduate outcome. And you're going to look for evidence of that across the 3 projects. See you all soon. So Chuck or Amanda, what I would love, I think Amanda, you can help with breakouts. Is that true?
Might. Let me see.
What I can't do simultaneously is make sure we have relatively even breakout rooms, you know, that no one's by themselves, and get into them and post the link again. So tell me which one to do.
I don't have any access to it.
I don't either.
All right, I will.
It looks like we have a couple not in breakout rooms yet.
Yep. I will work on that first.
Sorry, Jessica, I don't have those have those rights.
No worries.
And let's see what we can do about that.
So it looks like we at least have 3
don't have
people.
It's me, Karen. I don't have
Hi,
one.
Karen, why do I not see that you're unassigned? Let's see. Hi, Karen. It's really good to see your face.
Hi.
Karen, you're supposed to be in initiative, but I can move you now. I can't move you.
It wasn't an invite.
Let's see. I'll put you in. Do you want
matter.
communication or collaboration? Which sounds more interesting?
Communication.
All right. Hopefully this will work for you this time. Let's see. Nope. For whatever reason, her pop-up, Amanda, I think, is blocked.
I think
Is
it's
there-
blocked or it's behind something else on her screen, because sometimes
Yeah, you might need to move screens around and see if it is hidden behind something.
Let me see. Oh, found it.
Yay, now you get to choose, yeah. All right, Amanda, Chuck, I'm gonna start heading to breakout rooms.
Okay.
Or actually, you know what, I'm gonna broadcast to all. It took so much time last time, Chuck, to get through all of them.
Yeah, do it.
Okay,
I wish I could help with this part.
no worries. Here is the link again to the POG, or actually, I might do the website first.
Mhm. And then the video, remember, is like 20 minutes.
Yeah, we're not gonna show all of that.
I think the whole alternative hosting only lets you have all of the access, like if you were to disappear.
Yep.
And it would be helpful if it was like,
Ah, sorry, I need to focus on this right now. I'll come back to being a productive person in just a second.
you're being productive right now.
Mr. Chev is back. Oh, and he's gone. Gone. Okay, let me look. It looks like we've got, every room has at least 3 people. Most have 4 or 5.
So
How
that
many rooms are there?
broad,
6.
Six.
the broadcast link, like you can't do anything with it, and you can't click on it. So like,
Should I push myself into each room? It took like the whole time last time.
well, there's 6 of them.
But they stop you. They're like, oh, I need your help.
Uh-huh.
Could you broadcast it if they need help to like call you? You know how they can like ring the host?
Good. Good, Amanda. Please just ring host.
Yeah, something like that. I would say in any given room, at least one person should know how to do that.
Exactly.
How many
The
people-
last time too, Chuck, the whole thing was like they didn't understand what we were asking them to do because we didn't like orient them to the website first.
Right.
Um,
Glad you
so
remember.
so
good.
this time I think that will, well, that would be less of an issue.
I
Okay.
have the tab open. Yeah.
Did you guys do this yesterday?
No, like when we did the actual exhibition, I think you
Yeah.
were there.
Uh-uh.
Oh yeah, everyone was like, what? we did like bad teacher directions.
We totally did.
You're like, you
Okay.
understand. You understand me.
So Chuck, we have to end by 3 because it'll take me a half an hour to get to Tyson, and he invited the whole SPED team, by the way, like Mary, Ryan, all them. That's who I was texting. I apologize. So we definitely need to end at 3.
Yeah.
And so how much of the video do you want to show? And then how much of a debrief do you want before the video? In other words, how long shall I give them in breakouts? So remember, we're going to do what if you, why did you? I think we won't do that, right? Slide 8.
Yeah, we're never going to get to that. That's sort of the debrief.
Yeah.
But there won't be time. So I don't know. We'll show 10 minutes of it maybe. And
Maybe that's what we'll say, like, let's debrief it and kind of almost end the session. Let's not say that. Let the teachers do any talking during the debrief, maybe. Answer some questions, and then we'll say, we're going to start showing the video and the time we'll have allotted, but please, you have access to the website if you want to watch the full.
And I can leave it going actually.
True.
So if people wanted to stay on, and I don't have to leave as soon as you do anyway.
Okay.
Um,
So I'm actually going to make you the host then right now. But does that work for you? Like, to do it all now, basically?
what do you mean?
Let the teachers talk, debrief, do the
Oh,
Q&A,
yeah.
and end with the video. Okay, great.
Fine.
I'm making you the host right now. So if I leave, you're good.
It'll happen automatically anyway.
But you'll have to pull everyone back from the breakouts now.
Okay. When do we want to do that?
So we probably want to talk as a group for 15 minutes almost. And you want to show at least 10 minutes of the video, so maybe 5 minutes?
Wow, it made really uneven groups. It's weird.
It's because there's a couple of reasons. One, I moved people based on where you guys were assigned. But then other people, you can't, once you've already assigned someone to a room like Karen, in order to get it to prompt her again, I had to reassign her. So the group, and like that happened with a couple of people. So the groups were even. And I'm sorry, guys, I know those of you that is watching this as an archive months from now and we're still recording. Sorry you're watching all of our weird troubleshooting issues. Talk about learning in public.
We can edit that all out.
We don't, it's not, it would be nice to the participants, but I don't care.
I was
if
gonna say, they
hear
might not want to
it.
watch 15 minutes of it.
So tell me when I should give them like a 5-minute warning.
Now, like maybe now give them a 3-minute warning
Okay.
or a 4.
I'll do 3 because it takes a minute.
I'm in literally fleece because it was really cold this morning.
Hmm.
And I've had to be outside all day, and it's not the appropriate attire now.
Yeah, it's definitely warmer than it was.
So the plan is to like really rapid fire go through each one and then allow Q&A with the teachers.
Yeah, let's get at least one example from each outcome.
Good.
Shall I close them?
It's like 10 seconds, so yeah, because it takes 60.
Yep.
Sue, I'm jealous. I'm going to change my photo to be with my dog. I feel like people would much prefer to see that. You've inspired me. Hi, Chuck.
That picture of the dog is actually the school therapy dog.
Oh, I love that. That's even more lovely.
3 school therapy dogs. Unfortunately, they can't get close to the kids right now when the kids need them the most, but so be it.
Can they Zoom? Do dogs Zoom? Is that
Oh
a thing?
yeah. Yeah, the dog Zooms. My daughter has a therapy dog for her classroom, and I've got one, and boy, we're Zooming all day long with the dog. So yes,
Oh, lovely.
they
Good.
Zoom. But so that's why the dog's in the picture.
Yeah, you're right. Like, though, it's not the same as the physical touch. The kids need the therapy dogs more than ever and can't.
We need more time.
Oh, sorry. You can blame it on Chuck because I made him the host now, Cliff.
I like it, Chuck.
Thank you, Cliff. Cliff, you know that Jessica's the cruelest timekeeper.
Totally.
You know, 5 minutes for me is like 3.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys.
Really good to see you, Cliff.
Take care.
How are we doing? Most of us back?
I don't know. You're the host now, so I can't see.
Oh, I'm the host. Yep. I think we're mostly back. Here is what we'd like to do relatively quickly so we can get to the film, but I would like to hear at least one example from each of the Portrait of a Graduate outcome areas where you found evidence, or I suppose lack of evidence, for students' ability to develop and demonstrate the knowledge, skills, and attributes identified by the community. Why don't we, I guess, start at the top and go with curiosity. Would the curiosity breakout room be willing to share what you discovered and what you discussed?
Sure, I'll start since I was in the middle of my sharing when we so rudely got brought back. No, so I was looking at I believe it was called Share a Life. It was a Healdsburg High program. Students were working with residents in like a memory care facility. They had dementia, highlighting the importance of human interaction, and then the pandemic hit, and they weren't able to continue that. But from what I read, students were beginning to develop questions based on their own curiosity and their own experience in working with the residents. And so there was some student choice in that, interacting with the broader community, and sounded like a great thing. And they hope to continue it once the pandemic is over. So yes, there was some curiosity there.
Folks, you might see us all laughing because if you were a little bit slower to rejoin from the breakout rooms, we know and work with Cliff Schroeder, alternative education principal, well, and he was frustrated at the lack of time we provided you all. So in no way do we think we gave you ample time to peruse 3 projects across an entire website. We appreciate your patience, but hopefully, if nothing else, you're left wanting more, and you can go back and check out more details of each of the projects. So thanks, Cliff.
How about the empathy crew? Any evidence of empathy in any of these projects, please?
Absolutely. The Healdsburg one, with working with the Alzheimer's patients was, you could see it right from the front with the quote from the student saying, like relating to the patients who were separated from their families during the COVID-19. The Windsor one, I felt like it really showed or came out and shined during the phase 3 part where they were recreating the project for the younger students and thinking about what the younger students would need. And in the Rancho one, it seems like they have an ongoing project where before it was creating, thinking about the needs of breast cancer patients, and now with the COVID masks.
Excellent. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Renee. Renee was laughing if you didn't see in the chat. She didn't understand why other people weren't speaking to her in her breakout room, but it's because she had her sound off.
Speaking of having our sound off or on, next we'll hear from the communication group.
I can go. So we thought there was communication, different forms of communication woven throughout all 3 projects, all the way from communicating your own emotions and feelings and conveying your own experiences in a way that other people can understand, all the way to professional communication with outside organizations to coordinate different events, and even in communicating with other students, like, for example, how to make the masks. So lots of opportunities for effective communication. And yeah.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. We're glad you're here, a 6th grade teacher.
Thanks.
How about collaboration? Any evidence for that?
I can do that one. The Rancho project in particular, I thought was interesting with collaboration, because not only were the students collaborating with adults, looking at a business who had to pivot really quickly to change what they were doing, but they also were collaborating with their fellow students and their entire community about getting enough supplies to complete their project. So I thought that was a really great example of not only having to collaborate with an industry partner, adults, but also their peer group and their entire community, really, to pull the project off. So I thought that was a really great example of it.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. How about the ethics group?
I can go ahead. You guys hear me okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah, ethics was kind of, just like everybody else said, sort of apparent, found in each one of the groups, each one of the projects. Certainly, with students supporting our seniors, and doing, whatever they could to connect with them, especially now when seniors are especially isolated. I mean, they're doing the right thing in that project. And then with the quarantine journal, Dave Beal had mentioned that part of the project was asking students to kind of check each other if they were being inappropriate using social media. And that was a great example of teaching kids ethics and appropriate behavior online. And then, you know, with the Rancho kids, you know, making masks for people that need them in this time of need. I mean, what could be more ethical than that? So really great examples of using ethics in all the projects. So good job.
Cool. Thank you, Tricia. And finally, initiative. Any evidence for students' opportunity to develop or demonstrate initiative in these projects?
Okay, looks like it's me. So, Chuck, you want to do it?
No, go ahead.
Okay. We were particularly impressed with the Rancho Cotati group and the initiative that they took with their project and all the different kinds of networking that they had to do to get their product out, and connections and on learning new online skills and so on. The other ones were there too, but particularly with Rancho, we saw lots of initiative.
Thank you, Deborah. And really, thank you to everybody for engaging in that experiment with us. We really are intrigued and interested in how we might teach for and assess these kinds of qualities, and sort of how it fits in with some of the other things that we are you know, sometimes required to do. We think there's some power in using some outcomes sort of identified by the entire Sonoma County greater community and presenting those to young people as desirable skills, knowledge, and attributes to develop. And so we really appreciate your helping us think about what it might look like to identify evidence that students have developed some of these skills.
Chuck, we've got, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're in the participant group and I missed you, but I think we've got one lone teacher all-star who just replied to me and said I can out him. Hi, Dave Beal, thank you again, who is ready to be on the hot seat if there are some questions from the group about the process or anything that might be helpful to the participants in terms of how they might apply it to their practice. So thank you, Dave Beal from Windsor. Chuck, I'm wondering if, to help this, if you don't mind going back actually to the slide that shows the sort of 4 pillars, the 4 ways in which this project was organized, or the 4 like design considerations, maybe that's a better word. Of course, we were really interested, as Chuck said, about the portrait of a graduate and teaching for and assessing that. But as Chuck mentioned, like another thing that all these projects had in common was, you know, really thinking differently about how to engage students through distance learning, and because of these 4 things as an imperative. So I'll turn it over really to the group. You can unmute yourself or post it in the chat. Dave Beal from the Windsor team is here and can answer your questions, or the best we can, Chuck and I can jump in as well.
I have a question. So especially Dave's the perfect one to ask, because I know Windsor has the senior projects that they do, and this seems very like it could very tie into that or be very similar to that. Were students who worked on this project counting it towards that, or was this a separate project in addition to?
So we hadn't seen our kids, so we just kind of fell back to, we have an honors component that's embedded with the rest of our curriculum, and we just reached out and said, which kids, if we said, would you like to do this, are likely to say yes? And the first 3 we talked to said yes. They got 0 credit for it. We kept encouraging them to document it, because that's what colleges look for, is someone with initiative and responsibility and something you can show them that they can see what you do. So yes, this would be a great senior project, you know, because it has such a great product side of it. But it also has that, what we tend to tell them, colleges are looking for people that can solve problems, like regardless of what you're studying. So that's how we presented it to them. Here's your problem. And we really it's not like, oh, they did it all themselves, and then they literally did all of it themselves. So it was a great growing experience for them, but it could definitely be, make it a senior project, especially since getting kids to go out and volunteer right now is a little bit difficult.
And Renee, I'll add that what was cool for us to see with Nueva specifically, but I'll also talk more generally across the 3 projects, because many of you experienced a hold harmless grading policy. These projects were mandatory, but not, right? They really were, at least in the spring, an offer. And so I think it tested the student engagement maybe more than anything. Do these 4 things: radical integration, authentic industry mentorship, current community issues, and remote learning and innovations, do they engage students in wanting to, even when they don't have to? And I think, at least from our perspective, across the 3 projects, Chuck and I saw much more of an uptick across the student populations than we would with, like, an online worksheet. So I think you would agree, Dave. Like, to your point, you said these girls got no credit and did it anyway.
And that's addressed in the video as well, for sure. Each of the teachers spoke about that.
And then I can say for the other, go ahead, Dave.
I was just saying, we decided that the way of doing it in the spring and what we're continuing is sort of our building blocks are social, emotional, like the kids need that as the bottom of their pyramid. And then the next thing we thought was important is engagement, because without that you have nothing. And then the last thing is our little final piece to our pyramid is feedback, direct, and as often as possible giving them feedback. So we kind of just threw content out the window as one of the most important things, and this thing hit like all 3 of those things perfectly.
Nice.
And Renee, I think to answer, I don't want to speak for them, but they're not here, and we do know a little bit for the Rancho and Healdsburg teams. It sort of depends on the class. So the teachers negotiated. Like in the case of Rancho Leadership, they have a service requirement in that course, and so this project fulfills that, right? But now moving into next year, if they're to replicate it in the English course, which you actually, hear the teacher talking about, like it would actually be something she assesses and grades for a particular portion of the project in that class. So they sort of divided up what elements of the project would be assessed or count in which class, without, as Chuck said, like doubling up the work for kids. It was the same project. It's just what we looked for was in the project was dependent on which class I was sort of getting credit for.
Kind of like we used to do with the C3
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Chuck, do we have time for maybe one more question?
Depends how much video we want to see.
Let me ask, are there any burning questions while we have Dave or us that we can say more about these projects to help you think about how you might apply it?
Okay. I'm going to transition to the.
We've got one in the chat.
Let's see.
How can an English teacher use this with her PBL? Actually, Chuck, maybe that's a great segue to the video. I think it starts with that, right?
Yeah, pretty early on, Lisa, you'll hear, actually there are 3 different English teachers talking about how their specific English standards were addressed in the context of these integrated projects. So I guess maybe we should let them try to answer that. And if your question isn't answered, we can give it another shot. So
Sounds good. Thanks.
And folks, we'll play the video till 3 when this meeting the session is set to adjourn. But we can also keep it running. We don't expect that you stay. And if you do need to go, you have access through the Google Drive to the actual website where everything we've shared today can be found. So hopefully you want to check it out more and think about how you can replicate, or excuse me, be inspired by it.
Suffering from trying to do is connect students with seniors right now who are either suffering from dementia or some type of a degenerative disease.
Well, then, bam, here comes COVID-19. Now, so we dropped a bunch of iPads over there, right? I dropped 11 iPads. We got programs on. We're ready to go. We're actually looking at things like a drawing, and maybe it might be something as simple as the resident has a piece of paper and they have a piece of paper and they're kind of drawing and showing each other what they're drawing.
Students, I asked for volunteers for students to make masks at home. Each student was given a kit with enough materials to make 40 masks and to keep for themselves and their families. And 30 to bring back to me so that we could pass them on to organizations in need.
And for this project, all of my classes were assigned the task of writing 3 encouraging postcards to each of the different audiences that would be receiving the care packages. For this, it was the ASP students, my seniors, and both of my current and incoming executive boards were in charge of a PPE drive for the Navajo Nation by calling businesses or emailing businesses and promoting a drive for students to bring in any type of PPE for Navajo Nation. That was my city.
Uh-oh. Please stand by.
Chuck, I can share it from mine, but not from the exact spot it's at. But I think
About 2 minutes in.
Yeah, so the
here we go.
project is called the Quarantine Journal Project, as just an invitation for the kids to create every day, to share their work every day through Instagram, and have that sense of community.
Because we're weirdly, this is going to be called the quarantine time, however long it lasts. And it'd be great to take some of these things that were created and somehow, archive them and display them, even if it's at a health institute or something where you have a whole wall and have the prompt in the middle and have it surrounded by writing and images, so people can kind of take it in on their own, at their own pace, sort of.
So essentially our phase 3 was when we reached out to several of our students who were actively participating, but were also very interested in sharing this process with other age groups and students at other schools. So after being connected to industry partners and having discussions with them, we then also connected them with our students, and these 3 girls created a project version for middle school as well as elementary school levels.
He was the filmmaker for the movie Alive Inside. He really brought this to the forefront, allowing the public to see that you could use music to bring back memories. And through the Communiversity program over at Hillsburg Senior Living, we've been working together, and we've been bringing students in there, once a month, and seeing this really, really cool connection.
Yeah, when we spoke with Stefan and Tech Taylor, he was really instrumental in ensuring our largest recipients of care packages were involved. He
talked about how his industry, this entire shift over to making masks, making sure that the people who needed it needed them. But his connection with a woman who was gathering materials, PPE for people of the Navajo Nation, that wasn't on our radar, and he's the one that really promoted that and got us thinking a little bit bigger than just Sonoma County. And he was a real inspiration for what it means to take what you're doing every day and then completely change directions and meet a need. And so we as teachers have also been in that process ourselves, and so have our kids.
Partners might be talking about are we worked with people in sort of that like mental health and social emotional focus, specifically people that work with kids, to ask them, okay, how do we create these prompts, and then how do our students create these prompts that are going to really offer support and not trigger and not create more anxiety? We don't really know. And so the feedback we got from our industry partners was massively helpful. And then for our students to get to work with them as well was really cool. And it was cool to see the feedback they received get implemented directly in, and the changes they made. Our kids were so good at sort of yes and philosophy of work, like, oh, okay, let's move forward. The girls also worked with elementary teachers and a couple former middle school teachers to get the insight at that grade level. Like, how do we adjust this for those kids' participation?
I would say another really helpful thing was, again, word choice. When they had those constraints and they presented it to the industry professionals for feedback, they were really brought to attention their word choice when prompting the students of what they wanted. So, for example, I think one prompt that got changed was they asked something about what your parents do for you. And the industry feedback was you need to be all-inclusive because not everybody's family looks the same. So in changing that of like, how does your family take care of you, or how do your guardians take care of you? And I feel like the girls really learned a lot. That was just one example, but several different instances where just changing the wording a little bit made it inclusive for everyone. Because there were three very distinct audiences, masks that were going to seniors living in a senior apartment complex, women who would be going back in for screening at St. Joseph's, and then a more general, right? We don't know in terms of age or gender, any of those things with Navajo Nation. It really challenged my students to think about what they would say to each of those different audiences. And even though students had been kind of directed about being sensitive to religious beliefs or, making platitudes at this time, gave us a real opportunity to talk about how, when people say like everything's going to be just fine, that is not appropriate, when that is not a promise you can keep. And I put out another video and noticed saying like, please show up for this, for these reasons. And I think that the students showed up. I mean, I feel like I have the statistics to prove it, because the next week when we were back to Kill a Mockingbird and ERWC, they were not showing up in the way that they showed up with these postcards.
Whenever you can get outside of the classroom and see all the standards applied in a real life situation, that's what really is the best thing that comes from it. And as far as specific learning the kids are doing, it's kind of neat. Out of the interviews that we had with John and Tony and Julia, a lot of questions came up on ideas like epidermis deprivation, right? Not having touch. The idea that now that we all have masks, you can't actually see the smile and stuff. So one of the things that we asked the kids to do was to do some, some authentic research and come up with a question they might like to ask them or that they're interested in. So there's the one thing you see from English classroom is, a kid thinks of something they want, it's an authentic situation, a question they want to know. They do the research, and then instead of just writing a paper, they actually are going to speak with somebody and put it into play. And while they're doing this, they're actually using technology in a 21st century way, because we're going to be doing this more and more with the future. Hell knows how long it's going to last. There's a lot that's going to come out of this afterwards. So as far as standards in the English classroom, there's so many. There really are.
Poetry, and I remember one student wrote poetry, and it was very bad. And he said it was very bad, but he had never written poetry, and he thought it was a cool opportunity to try. And that was in response to a prompt about like global leadership. So it was like they're thinking larger than themselves while still holding a focus on themselves, if that makes sense. So now we offer them 3 prompts a week. One is kind of like a larger world view. One is a more community-focused question, and the last one focuses on the individual or the self. And so in doing this, we shape our questions around, politics and government and society. So you're covering some of this world history curriculum and U.S. history curriculum that I teach. There is a journaling component and a daily writing component, and so that covers some of the English curriculum. We pulled out all the sources, and then of course the expression of creativity and sharing your work, and that's where the art and design comes. So it's still very reflective, but it is pushing them to consider the worlds at large.
Well, and what's great is they're pushing themselves, like students who had none of this happen, and I would say, great guys, we're gonna start our poetry unit, and I'm gonna teach you all these different things, et cetera, would have groaned and rolled their eyes, and now all we have to do is say, just make sure you write, and we have kids who are attempting poetry, who never would have attempted poetry before, just because it's something new and different that they wanna try. So they're challenging themselves, which is like really encouraging and fantastic to see.
One of the things that I really liked about this project with distance learning, and it's something we knew from working together before, but we were really reliant on kind of making sure that my kids could get over to Deborah's classroom at a particular time. And this really showed us that we don't really need that piece.
Most of them are pieces of art. One of the first things I noticed is John also teaches our 9 and 10, and Mikey and I don't teach those kids. And I was responding on Instagram to these kids' posts, and John let me know, oh my God, you made that girl's day. She struggles with her sort of self-worth, and the fact that you said I love everything about that piece of art. She's just so excited, and you made her day, and it was a random stranger that I didn't know that was on the campus with me. I think in that way, we're looking at what they produce or what they share with us or what they share with everybody in a totally different way than we would that kid that you sort of already had these preconceived notions about what they're capable of, or what they didn't do last time, and it kind of gets rid of all those filters, and you're just looking at this product. That's something that's totally different. And in a way, it's your critical feedback is much more open and less sort of less polluted or less corrupted.
We don't really have that same level of connection. One thing, if we are looking at online or a hybrid model next year, is I would like to divide all of my classes into subgroups of 10 or 15, because I don't feel like online you can foster a community with this project. But I think I spend more time on grade, because I spend less time actually handling paper. I feel like I am more thoughtful with my responses to the students on what they turn in, both in writing, and it's actually pretty cool because the fashion design, their drawings, I could hit edit, and I could actually draw over their drawings in areas where I think they could be improved, and send it back to them. So they can, so rather than having to stand there and articulate, like, no, the hand will be curved up on the side, I can actually kind of just let pen draw over their drawings and send it back to them for feedback.
One of the things that I started using, which I'm definitely going to continue using, are shared documents. We had a spreadsheet of the student names, who they contacted, their phone numbers, you know, who they spoke to, and what the result was.
That's right. That's my takeaway. The kids were amazing. They figured it out. They made it work. We had to fix sewing machines over FaceTime. They would take one apart on their end, and I would take one apart on my end. And I would show them how to take it apart, clean it, and put it back together. Yeah, just a lot of problem solving, a lot of flexibility, a lot of critical thinking, and just that's it.
And it's kind of nice because John has always been on Instagram, and Mikey and I'm new to this platform, so I'm stumbling through it. So it's kind of nice to have different perspectives from those people. And I was like,
Yeah, I've always been active on Instagram, but I don't do TikTok. TikTok's kind of the new one that's beyond me. And so what's really cool is the amount of kids that responded to these prompts using TikTok and then saving them and posting them on Instagram. So like bringing their world into our world. It really broke down those generational barriers to a degree, which was a lot of fun.
That I see a possibility of coming out of this remote, time that we're doing, is that it could break down some of the walls of time in life that students have in place that stop them from going to senior center. Like they have to do it during school, during class, on a field trip, right? Okay, so what if they have this connection now where they have their phone with FaceTime and they can connect with their senior anytime?
For us, the problem we saw was our community is going to be separated. That separation is going to cause social emotional angst. What can we do to bring our community back together in a different format and maybe lessen some of that angst? So do I think that this project is a cure for like clinical depression or anxiety? No, it certainly isn't going to do that, but it is providing kids with an outlet to create in a time when they really, really need to be focusing that energy positively.
We don't know. And I'd say every single time we left, I just had the biggest smile on my face because you really see what all students, that's like that seed of possibility that they have inside of them, just be planted and grow in front of your eyes. They all are just like, they have this connection. They realize it's bigger than them, it's bigger than school, it's bigger than all this other stuff that's happening. And it's just so real. And to watch all types of students connect with them and be on their best is an amazing experience.
Sorry, real quick, Jessica. That for a lot of my students became a family activity. I got to talk to the parents when they did the curbside pickup, and a lot of the parents would iron while the kids sewed. The parents were really impressed by the skills their kids have learned in school and might show. In addition, sewing really is a life skill, and I feel like those kids really took that away with this project. And the students saw how valuable this skill is, especially at a time like this. This is something where they had a skill that other people need, and gave them the opportunity to share their skill. They were happy to do it. They were happy to contribute to the community with the skills that they have learned.
With administration or teachers or those employing discipline, but you put them together, kind of like the forgotten students with these forgotten adults, and it's a mutual beneficial relationship. They leave there feeling like they have done something, that they've actually made a difference in somebody else's life. There's something about bringing people joy in the moment. These are the last maybe hours, days, weeks, months. These residents don't think in terms of years. They don't know if they have enough.
and it's bringing them something new in the last moments of their life.
Kristen, Amanda, you still there?
I'm here, Chuck.
I was going to say, Krista gets the prize.
No, does she know? Krista, do you know you're still on? Because it's muted.
Cool. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
I'm going to run to Sebastopol.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything.
All right. Thank you. See you soon. Bye.